Welcome to Affinity Ministries Gospel Series Bible Study, the Holy Word of God, where we bring the Word of God to life just for you. Hi everybody, I'm Dusty Rhodes. We are in the book of Revelation. This week's study is chapter 14, the Song of the 144,000 and the Heart. Wow. It's amazing when that light bulb goes off, isn't it? And it starts to make sense. Because when you know what to look for, it's not so scary, is it? When you got the Word of God, and He translates these beasts and kings and mountains and all of that, then you know what to look for. Guess what? You've had a revelation. How many of you had one just now? How many of you pictured those beasts with those horns? Now you begin to understand where God is coming from. And now, as we go deeper into the tribulation, your understanding should start to get a little bit clearer, and you can pick it up a little bit faster, because it starts to make sense. And when it makes sense, once that seed has been thoroughly planted and rooted in the truth, everything else is great. Because you know what you're looking for, and you know what's going to come down. And you know that it's not anything that you need to be afraid of if you're a follower of Christ. And now, in chapter 13, we learned about the mark of the beast and the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet. And we also learned that the first mark of the beast was given to Cain. It was given to Cain. It marked him as a murderer because he murdered his brother Abel. And we know now that Satan will come before Christ. So you got your order it set up. You got your timing set up. You know what's going to happen. You know you don't need to be worshiping a man. Now, let's look at this 144,000. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's names written in their forehead. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne, and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth. And these are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb wheresoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed them with a loud voice, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yes, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in thy sickle, and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap. For the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in his sickle thrust his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress, the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden without the city, and the blood came out of the winepress even to the horses' bridles, by the space of 1,600 furlongs.
Let's review chapter 14. Christ stands on Mount Zion with 144,000, all sealed of God. There was music, new songs, and the redeemed first fruit. The first angel with the everlasting gospel is flying in mid-heaven to proclaim, Fear God, give glory to him, because the hour of his judgment is come. The second angel said, The great city Babylon is fallen, because of the wine and the anger of her fornication. She made all nations to drink. The third angel said, If anyone worships the beast and its image, and receives a mark on his forehead or in his hand, he shall also drink of the wine of anger of God, having been mixed undiluted in the cup of his wrath, and will be tormented by fire and brimstone before the holy angels and before the Lamb. There will be no rest. The fourth angel said to the one sitting on the cloud, Send your sharp sickle and reap, because your hour to reap came, because the harvest of the earth was dried. And he reaped the earth. The fifth angel also had a sharp sickle, and the sixth angel, having authority over fire, spoke to the one having the sharp sickle and said, Gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, because its grapes are ripened. And he gathered the vine of the earth and threw it into the winepress of the great anger of God. The winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood went out of the winepress as far as the bridles of horses.
vengeance belongeth to God. Christ and the 144,000 are setting in motion right now in this chapter the finishing of the will of God. The angel is going strong with the everlasting gospel. Warning sent out to all who take the mark of the beast, and the time of the harvest has come. It was missed by the whole world. Imagine that. The whole world missed the harvest. When the angel told the one on the cloud, send your sharp sickle and reap, because your hour to reap came, because the harvest of the earth was dried. Listen to what she's saying, he's saying. This was what the manuscript said. Send your sharp sickle and reap, because your hour to reap came, and the harvest of the earth was dried. Go back and read what happened in the third seal. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Harvest came, and there was no fruit. People, pay attention. The balances in that third seal are to measure fruit for the harvest. There was very little fruit. The only thing that was left was the oil and wine, the few doing God's work without practicing all those other abominations mentioned in the 5 churches that needed to overcome. For all who are not farmers, now is the time for a little education on agriculture, so we can understand what's taking place when this hour of judgment is come. First, you got your plowing and your sowing, and this is Christ's teachings to the church, ministers and teachers who are teaching the Word of God.
If grain is to be planted, the seed is scattered broadcast by the sower. If the land has not been used for some time, the ground is first plowed, and when the seed has been scattered, is plowed again. The sower may keep his supply of seed in a pocket made by pulling up his outer garment through his girdle to a sufficient extent for it to sag down outside his girdle in the form of a loose pouch. He may, on the other hand, carry it in a jar or basket. As soon as the seed is scattered, it is plowed in before the ever-present crows and ravens can gather it up. The path of the plow in the fields of the hilly regions is a tortuous one, because of the boulders jutting out here and there, or because of the ledges which frequently lie hidden just beneath the surface. When the plowman respects the footpaths, which the sufferance of the owner has allowed to be trodden across his fields, or which mark the boundaries between the lands of the different owners, and leaves them unplowed, then the seed which has fallen on these portions becomes the food of the birds. Corners of the field where the plow cannot reach are hoed by hand.
Reaping. Christ, the angels, and the 144,000 sealed.
After the plowing is over, the fields are deserted until after the winter rains, unless an unusually severe storm of rain and hail have destroyed the young shoots. Then a second sowing is made. In April, if the hot east winds have not blasted the grain, the barley begins to ripen. The wheat follows from a week to 6 weeks later. depending upon the altitude. Toward the end of May or the first week in June, which marks the beginning of the dry season, reaping begins. Whole families move out from their village homes to spend the time in the fields until the harvest is over. Men and women join in the work of cutting the grain. A handful of grain is gathered together by means of a sickle held in the right hand. The stalks, thus gathered in a bunch, are then grasped by the left hand, and at the same time a pull is given which cuts off some of the stalks a few inches above the ground and pulls the rest up by the roots. These handfuls are laid behind the reapers and are gathered up by the helpers, usually the children, and made into piles for transporting to the threshing floor.
Christ does the threshing.
The threshing floors are constructed in the fields, preferably in an exposed position, in order to get the full benefit of the winds. If there is a danger of marauders, they are clustered together close to the village. The floor is a level circular area 25 to 40 feet in diameter, prepared by first picking out the stones, and then wetting the ground, tamping and rolling it, and finally sweeping it. A border of stones usually surrounds the floor to keep in the grain. The sheaves of grain, which have been brought on the backs of men, donkeys, camels, or oxen, are heaped on this area, and the process of tramping out begins. In some localities, several animals, commonly oxen or donkeys, are tied abreast and driven round and round the floor. In other places, 2 oxen are yoked together to a drag, the bottom of which is studded with pieces of basaltic stone. This drag, on which the driver and perhaps his family sits or stands, is driven in a circular path over the grain.
The wine presses are the wrath of God.
Wine presses consisted of 2 rectangular or circular excavations hewn in the solid rock to a depth of 2 or 3 feet. Where possible, one was always higher than the other, and they were connected by a pipe or channel. Their size, of course, varied greatly, but the upper vat was always wider and shallower than the lower, and was the press proper, into which the grapes were thrown to be crushed by the feet of the treaders. The juice flowed down through the pipe into the lower vat, from which it was removed into jars, or where it was allowed to remain during the first fermentation.
What's going on here is that Christ came when you couldn't see him. And he was looking for a harvest. He was looking for fruit on that fig tree. And he found none. So he came again. And nobody knew it. And he was looking for more fruit. He found none. He had a harvest that he was waiting to give to anyone that would be able to give him the fruit that he was looking for. And he couldn't find it. He found the few faithful, but he had a harvest already packaged up to give, and no one would claim the harvest. He could not reap. So the harvest dried up. You know what happens when your harvest dry up? You have sown, you have plowed, you have threshed, you have done everything. And you gather that harvest and you put it and you gather it up and you put it in bags to take to the market, and you forget and just leave it sitting there and rotting. If God is going to give a harvest, we need to take it. It is his pleasure to give us a good harvest. But he couldn't find anybody except the faithful few